they brought in a hamster with a sizable tumor on its side. And in Syria, the thought of a hamster having surgery is so far out of the box. One emergency call I do remember was at 2 a.m. when I first started practicing, and a client called about their chinchilla that was covered in what they said was vomit. Chick Chick was owned by an Alzheimer's patient, and so we'll just call her Grandma. And Grandma's daughter-in-law brought in Chick Chick because she kept Grandma happy.
Welcome back to Tales of Fluff. I'm AJ.
And I'm Emily. We hope you're all doing well, and we're so excited for you to hear this episode. With that being said, today's episode is a little different from our usual format. Normally, we pre-record and then reflect on the answers our guests share with us, because after all, that's who you're here for, our amazing guests. But this time, a lot of what you will hear is unedited.
Yeah, and the reason we decided to do that is because we were having such a great time during this conversation that we wanted you to experience it right along with us. All the laughs, all the surprises, and the genuine moments.
Even while editing, we couldn't stop smiling. It brought us right back to how much fun this episode was to record. So get ready for a lot of laughter, some behind the scene moments, and just a genuine good time talking about animals.
Absolutely. And with all of that being said, let's introduce you to our guest.
We had the pleasure of chatting with Dr. Wolfe, a veterinarian who specializes in avian and exotic medicine. Her start in the field and her experiences are truly incredible, and they show her deep love and dedication to animals. We also have a returning guest, Raya from Archie's Angels. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, we definitely recommend going back to check it out. You might just come away with a whole new appreciation for reptiles.
That episode was amazing and full of great information. But today, Dr. Wolfe takes us on an unforgettable journey from dancing coolie loaches to a chicken who comforted a woman with Alzheimer's, a 2 a.m. vet call with a surprising twist, and some hilarious things birds have said, and even a story about stitching a chicken back together. This episode will really make you appreciate the pets that don't always get the spotlight they deserve.
Awesome. Now let's get right into it. We started by asking Dr. Wolfe how long she's been a vet and what inspired her to take this path.
Well, since 1996, when I graduated from Purdue University, and I actually started off as an art major. That was my life goal always. And then suddenly, strangely enough, I couldn't find a job. And while I was in art school, I got a degree in botany at the same time at IU Bloomington. And then I started working for a veterinarian in Indianapolis. And I sort of thought about it, but as you know, the hours are ridiculously bad. The pay is zero. So I went and worked for Mary and Merrill Dow, which is a chemical company in Indianapolis. And I honestly loved it. I worked in the endocrinology lab. I did receptor binding. It was a pretty good gig. And ultimately, that particular company merged twice while I was there. And my superiors were all fired because they were making too much money. And suddenly now you have this 25-year-old in charge of the office. And I thought, I really would like to have more control over my life. And so I really thought about medicine, doing my own thing. Of course, I was thinking human medicine, like most people that enjoy biology and like school forever. So I was talking to a friend of mine who was an orthopedic intern, and he said to me, "Why don't you come and shadow me at the hospital?" And I said, "Okay, sure." And then really soon after that, we were watching a horse race. It was probably the Kentucky Derby. And the horses were thundering around the corner, and the lead horse buckled and rolled. And we went, like everyone's freaked out about this. I'm looking at the horse. My friend is looking at the jockey. And it occurred to me, perhaps I shouldn't go into human medicine because I could care less about the jockey and I'm horrified for the horse. So that's kind of where it all started. And when I applied for vet school and got in, I haven't looked back since, and I have loved every minute of it. It's a strange pathway, but I think a lot of people in medicine have a meandering pathway as they find what really pulls their strings. And when you give yourself enough time to figure it out, you never regret because you know you're where you should be.
I like how her story started with going to college for art. It just shows how different this path can be for everyone. Maybe some start out knowing they want to be a vet, and others figure it out along the way.
Right? She really tried it all before finding out what worked for her. It shows she didn't just jump into the career.
Definitely not. And that horse race moment really showed it when she came to realize she cared more about the horse than the jockey.
Yes, that part stood out to me too. Her coming to the realization that she truly had a passion for animals. And that also shows this wasn't something she just did just because she wanted to play with animals, but rather she really cares and wants to help animals.
Exactly. And I also like how honest she was about the twist in her path. Sometimes you have to take the long way around to figure out where you belong.
In that line, she said, "You know you're where you should be." That's a strong but true line. When you are doing something you are meant to do, there's no second guessing.
Absolutely. And just from that first question, you can feel how much she loves what she does, even after all these years.
I agree. And speaking about after all these years, we knew she probably has worked with many different animals who all have their own personalities. So we asked her, out of all the unique pets she has cared for, which species surprised her the most in terms of personality?
Well, okay. So this question is a little odd for me, and here's why. When I was a kid, I spent most of my time outside and I would bring in everything. My mother hated animals. Sorry, Mom, you know it's true. And she embraced my craziness from a young age, which was great. I would bring in dead goldfinches off the road, peel them off and throw them in the dollhouse and hope they'd be better. So personality wise, I've never been surprised because I've been around them. I mean, even reptiles and amphibians have a personality. The one thing that surprised me was when I was probably fairly young, I got a fish tank for my Christmas present, and I was told to put in one coolie loach, which I don't know if you guys have fish tanks, but you will never see that thing again. And probably 5 years later, I'm thinking, I think I'm going to get him a friend. I know you're not supposed to, but let's just check it out. So I put in another coolie loach and they both danced. And they underlined how important it is to have a friend. Even though, they were not supposed to have more than one in a tank, it was this magical, beautiful moment, which made me understand that everything has a soul, a personality, basic needs, basic connections that we miss as humans because we are very short-sighted. So that would probably be the most surprising thing. Everybody else, I know they have a personality. The birds talk to me all day, right? So I don't know. What do you think, Raya? Anything surprise you?
Oh God, all sorts of things. Yeah.
It's a daily freak show, but way fun because they're always talking to us. And I guess it's not a surprise, it's just a delight. But the coolie loach would be something I was not expecting to react in a way that seems so very human.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look that up on YouTube. Coolie Loach dancing fish. That sounds awesome.
I don't think
Well,
we've
they're
ever seen
very,
that.
they look like worms. And
Wow.
they hide under rocks, so you never see them.
Huh.
And they're very solitary in theory, but maybe they shouldn't be. And maybe we're judging them by what we think we know and not what we know at all.
Her answer couldn't be more veterinarian, if that makes sense. Saying nothing really surprised her, and that story about the coolie loaches dancing together was so sweet. Even though I have personally never owned one, it just goes to show how much animals can teach us when we watch how they act with others.
I know, right? Who would have thought two little fish could show us something so human just by being happy to have each other?
Exactly. And I like how she said it reminded her that not everything is how it seems. Sometimes things can surprise us in amazing ways.
Yeah, and it really puts things into perspective. We always talk about dogs and cats having personalities, but she's over here saying that animals we often overlook do too.
Definitely. Now, we just heard her amazing story about the coolie loaches, and I'm sure that's a moment she'll never forget. So, next, we wanted to know, does she have any other unforgettable memories with a bird or exotic pet? And what made that memory stand out?
Boy, I've got a couple, you know.
Deborah.
I have so many. I'm going to tell you this story because this story is about a chicken named Chick Chick. And Chick Chick was owned by an Alzheimer's patient. And so we'll just call her Grandma. And Grandma's daughter-in-law brought in Chick Chick because she kept Grandma happy. So the daughter-in-law and Grandma had just lost their farm, like so many people in Wisconsin. And the one thing that they took with them was this little chicken. Well, since her hatch date, she'd been living on the grandmother's lap, and therefore both of her legs grew out sideways because she had never had them in the correct position. So it was like this really bad hip dysplasia. I ended up putting Chick Chick in a body cast, but I also knew that she could not be separated from Grandma because Grandma would be upset. In the middle of all this, the daughter-in-law has facial nerve paralysis, so she has trouble speaking. And this is probably from stress because ultimately that can resolve. But Chick Chick would come back every week and Grandma would bring me a handkerchief full of pennies to pay. And ultimately we got Chick Chick better. But I guess this story hits me the hardest because, like most of these stories, it's about the human element. How important these animals are to their human in ways that we can't begin to perceive. So you have a human who is basically unhinged, like all of us can be, and only finds solace in the comfort of another animal, not their species. So a chicken that you don't think is going to be comforting was hugely comforting to this woman. And I think about her all the time. Every time I open my drawer, there's a handkerchief with those pennies in it. And this is from, I don't know, 15 years ago. But it's a story I will never forget because it reminds me of the human animal bond and how important that is, regardless of the species you're talking about.
Exactly what you touched on about the type of animal it is and the bond is exactly what I was
Yeah.
thinking as you were telling me that. I'm like, who would have thought a chicken? Like everybody goes to
Right.
dogs or
Right.
cats, but I mean, it just shows how incredible that bond is, just like you said.
Yeah. I had a woman come in Sunday. Am I allowed to talk about one more?
Absolutely.
So this is relatively recent, so we'll have to just pretend that they're not going to hear this. But I loved them instantly because the family was from Syria and they came over during the war. And I don't know if you guys know about breaking into cultures in Green Bay, but it's a very hard thing. And even from me, who is obviously an American, a white girl, my life has been easy, but coming here was very hard because bonds are already made and there's no need for anyone new. So pretend you're from Syria, you're here in Green Bay, and you're just trying to find your place. And they brought in a hamster with a sizable tumor on its side. And in Syria, the thought of a hamster having surgery is so far out of the box. This just doesn't happen. And when I told them how much the surgery was, they said that amount would feed a family in Syria for a week. And so we ended up doing it for almost free. But it's more about the human animal bond again, because the daughter was so attached to this hamster because there was unconditional love there. Nobody, the hamster's not judging, right? He just loves his person loves him. Everything's great. But sometimes when there's a vacuum in your life, the only thing that will fill it completely is an animal. And so this little hamster went home and he did great. And I'm hoping he's still doing great. But it's just another reminder of the importance of our connection to everything, including animals.
Absolutely. And that's incredible that you did that for them. I know they probably really appreciate it since they love,
They did.
yeah, they
And
love their
I mean,
hamster so much.
right. I know they did. It's like they made me cry when they brought him in because the mom who came, think about being in a war-torn area and escaping. I mean, we have no idea what that's like, right? We're just happy, affable Americans. And when I see other people and what they've lived through and lived through well and fought hard to be where they are, it just kills me because I don't get it. I've never had to get it. And I looked at the daughter and she was, I'm not going to say crying, but I could see, when those tears well up and they burn on their way out, that's what was happening to her. And then, of course, I did the same thing. This is the horrible part of being a veterinarian because you are one with the human and you feel what they feel and they just tear you up on the daily. But everything worked out, so we're good.
That story about the chicken named Chick Chick was amazing. I know I kind of mentioned this in the part that we left in, but I just have to say it again. It's incredible how it was a chicken that brought so much comfort. It just shows that no matter the species, animals can bond with us and help us in the most unexpected ways. You can just picture Grandma sitting there with that little chicken on her lap and that handkerchief full of pennies to help her chicken that she loved so much get better.
Yeah, that part really stood out to me too. It's such a small detail, but it says everything about how much that bond meant to her. That chicken wasn't just a pet, it was her comfort, her connection, and her peace.
And I like that Dr. Wolf kept those pennies after all these years. It's like a quiet reminder of why she does what she does.
Exactly. And then that second story about the Syrian family and their hamster was just amazing. That family cared so deeply for that little hamster. They came here on uncertain ground, trying to build a new life, and that pet meant everything to them. Like Dr. Wolf said, pets don't judge, they just love you. And that's exactly what this family found in that hamster.
Yeah, and I thought it was so touching that even though they didn't have all the funds, Dr. Wolf still went ahead with the surgery. You can tell for her, it wasn't about the money, it was about compassion.
Totally. And when she said sometimes the only thing that can fill a void is an animal, that hit hard. It's so powerful because it's so true. Animals are incredible in that way.
Exactly. That's what makes working with animals so special. The way they can heal parts of us that words or even people sometimes can't. It's something you can't really explain.
For sure. Our next question turned to a more lighthearted subject. As we mentioned in the beginning, Dr. Wolf works with birds. And as we know from previous episodes, birds have a big personality. So we had to know, what was the most unexpected thing a bird said to Dr. Wolf during an exam?
What I love are Congos, African gray Congos, because they remember you. And when a Congo comes in, I'll talk to them and then I'll usually make a sound that is close to what they make in the wild, which is woo. And when they come back in, they look at me and they say, woo. Even if it's been 6 months, they're so much fun because they're so trainable and they understand who everybody is because I swear, they see things we can't. They have an extra cone in their eye. So we have 3, they have 4, and they see colors and spectrums we cannot imagine. And sometimes when birds are interacting with their humans, they see things and know things that they shouldn't. And either a bird loves you immediately or they hate you. And many of macaw has called me bad names. I don't know if I can say that. When I first graduated, I did a lot of house calls. And I thought that's what veterinarians did. I didn't realize you didn't have to do that. But once you go into a bird's house and you walk into their room, they will hop off their cage and run at you and say naughty things. And that definitely surprised me.
That's
And
hilarious.
yeah, it is hilarious. What do I say? Can I say MF? Probably not. You'd have to bleep it out.
Yeah, we would
But
bleep it out.
that's the most common name I'm called is an MF.
I've heard
And
it 2 times.
it's said with love, I swear. But the Congos, the fun thing about them is their humans interact with them enough so they understand context. So when a Congo grabs the cord of the Dremel with his beak, I will say no, and the Congo will say naughty, like he's just asking me to, I don't know, yell at him or laugh at him or who knows. And they always laugh when you laugh. They're just delightful. Every day is an adventure, is all I'm going to say. They never disappoint.
Definitely. Yeah, we recently interviewed Iowa Parrot Rescue, and they told
Yes.
us some crazy stories of how these birds go in and they start stealing lunches. I'm like, who? Like, I would have never known that unless I talked to you.
Right. Yeah, they're so smart. And we are always playing catch up, honestly. We tend to view everything with our short-sighted vision, but there's so much more. And they're so very bright that we miss half of it because they're judging them by our own intellect and not the way they're processing information. So it's always a wake-up call when you work with birds long enough. They're very surprising.
Her answer just goes to show how much personality birds have. The way those Congos remember her and even say the same thing after 6 months of not seeing her, that's wild.
I know. They know exactly who she is. And I just have to point out the part where she says birds can be up to no good, and the name they often call her just got us laughing because we didn't expect anything less from a bird.
Exactly. And it was also funny to hear how birds like to play around expecting a reaction of some sort. And when she said birds either love you or hate you right away, I totally believe that. Birds don't seem to hide their emotions.
Yeah, and I like how she said it's always said with love. You can tell she understands them.
And the part about them seeing colors we can't even imagine, that blew my mind. It makes you realize how smart and aware they are. Like they see the world in a completely different way.
Exactly. Birds are such characters. Every day must feel like an adventure working with them.
For sure. And speaking of adventures, not every day as a vet goes as expected.
So we asked her if she ever had a case where she wasn't sure an animal would make it, but it did.
Daily.
Every
And
day.
every single prolapsed hamster, because when I get hamsters in all the time that they have coccidia or they're impacted or dehydrated, and the hamsters, they just push until they feel like they shouldn't. And so they're unraveled sometimes when they come in. And if they have more than an inch of GI tract hanging out, their prognosis is quite poor. But recently, we've had really good luck with them. So I always tell the owners, you've got 2 inches of descending colon. This isn't good. And then sometimes they rally, like we're up to 50%. If you can rehydrate, get everything back, but they're supposed to die, but they don't. So I would have to say every prolapsed hamster should be gone and doesn't always.
Hamsters are something else.
Yeah, they're not thinking with more than one neuron, but we love them anyway. And there's nothing cuter, nothing. And when they love their person, they really do. I mean, who knows what they're seeing, right? Crazy.
I absolutely love that you brought up a hamster. Like, I would have never
Like, what?
ever thought that was going to be your answer. That's awesome.
I know.
I
We've
know.
been talking about
And I
hamsters
don't want
and
you to be
chicken.
bored or anything,
No,
Don't want to be predictable. But most
course.
things will make it. You can look in their eyes and tell, especially chickens. I used to run vaccine clinics at Petco, and we would have these crazy lines, and all sorts of people would show up. And one day, this chicken showed up in this guy's arm that had just gotten attacked by their dog. And I always carry suture with me because why wouldn't you during a vaccine clinic? And I loved this chicken. She just sat there and I sewed her. I mean, she didn't have any skin, right? And so we did this axial pattern flap on her back and stuck her all back together. And she's trying to help me with the suture with her little beak watching. But those, I guess, probably my first chicken, I did not expect to make it. But after that, if you look in their eyes and they're full of life, just go for it. Doesn't matter what's hanging out or what's wrong with them. They're dinosaurs. So they are made for the long haul. You just put them back together and call it a day, and they
I
will
like
live.
that. Chickens are dinosaurs. I love that.
Yeah, just put it
Yeah.
back together and call it a day. That's
And they will work hard for you. They're amazing. They never roll over and die. They are ready to do everything they can to stay here.
strong chickens.
Yes,
That's awesome.
chickens are crazy.
It's crazy how she said those hamsters shouldn't even make it, and yet half of them do. They are definitely tougher than they look.
Right? And the way she talked about them like tiny, stubborn survivors, I did not expect that. Hamsters don't get enough credit.
Yeah, and it's so sweet how she said they actually love their people. You can tell she really sees that connection, even with the smallest of animals.
For sure. And then that chicken story. Stitching her back together right there at a vaccine clinic. Now that's some serious dedication.
I know, and the way she described the chicken trying to help her while she was sewing it up, using its little beak, that was adorable.
And calling them dinosaurs? I'm never gonna look at a chicken the same way again.
Me neither. And from what she told us, chicken seems super tough.
Yeah, you can tell she doesn't give up easily. She'll do whatever she can to give an animal a fighting chance.
Exactly. And that got us thinking. Not every animal is easy to work with.
So we asked her if there's ever been a species she was nervous to work with at first, but ended up loving once she got to know them.
You know what's really funny about this? No. And the reason I say that is because I always liked snakes. I've always liked reptiles. When I was a kid, I would go looking for snakes and grab them, and they never bit me. And I would run after my brothers with them because that's what you do when you get a reptile in your hands. And I always loved reptiles. I don't know, a little off it, I guess. But the things that do make me nervous have never stopped making me nervous. And that would be big cats. Working on big cats, because I'm not very good with a dart gun. They're hard to vaccinate. Their skin is, oh my God, so thick.
I like that she said she's always been into reptiles. You can tell that started way back when she was a kid, chasing her brothers with snakes.
Yeah, I could totally picture that. I like how she owned it too, just straight up saying she was born a little odd. And I think all of us who love animals feel that same way.
For sure. And although snakes don't faze her at all, big cats still make her nervous. And I understand why that would be.
Honestly, same. And I don't blame her. Big cats are no joke. When she mentioned their skin being so thick and having to use a dart gun, I was like, yeah, that would make me nervous too.
Right? It's cool hearing what still challenges someone with her experience. It shows there's always that mix of respect and caution, no matter how long you've been a vet for.
Exactly. And that led us to our next question. Because when you work with animals like that, you never really know what kind of calls you're going to get.
So we asked her if there was ever a wild emergency call that really stood out, one she still thinks about today.
We get so many. Actually, I'm going to tell you this story because I think it's important. I get a lot of calls about indigenous birds that are trapped in a net, trapped under a bush, just trapped in the ice, sitting there. For whatever reason, humans in general are afraid to interact. So one of the emergency calls I got was about a Canada goose that had been sitting under somebody's bush for 3 weeks. And they were bringing it water, but that's it because they were afraid to get near it. So I went and checked it out. And at that point, it's so emaciated and so weak, and it had a bad leg. But I'm not sure why people are so afraid of wildlife, especially ducks and geese. If they're just sitting there, don't be afraid to get a very big comforter or very big blanket, throw it over the top, and stick them in your car and take them to the wildlife sanctuary. It's frustrating to me when animals are just sitting there and they're dying, and we humans don't feel empowered to make a difference. So that would be an emergency that I went and helped out with. One emergency call I do remember was at 2 a.m. when I first started practicing, and a client called about their chinchilla that was covered in what they said was vomit. So this is before there are emergency centers in Green Bay. So I met this guy at the clinic, and his chinchilla had actually just tipped over his water dish, and there was no vomit. The chinchilla's 100% great. He just was wet. And I know. And I have a really hard time charging people for anything that I do. And so it's 1 a.m. The guy doesn't have any money, and I didn't charge him anyway because this chinchilla's fine. But this is just a shout out for the emergency clinics. I love you so much. Don't ever leave.
I
That's all
really
I-
thought you were going somewhere serious. That story, like you started out with 2 a.m. But I get it. It's not really funny because, the guy thought something was really happening. So, good
He
for him.
did. He did.
Oh.
And there was nothing at all. And at 2 a.m., one tends to be a little cranky and tired. And I really wanted it to be something. I wanted to be there for a reason, to make a difference. And really, it was a tipped over water dish. So that was one of those emergencies that made me realize perhaps you should get a more thorough history before you meet the person at the clinic.
least-
Life lessons. Life is full of them, right?
Yeah. And at least he gave him peace of mind. That's what matters about his pet.
Oh, see, you're so sweet.
Gotta look at the right side of things. I
That's
know
right,
I know
that's
you were out there at 2 a.m., but
Yeah. Oh, I know. I need to talk to you more often. One that was really funny,
Oh, go ahead.
and it's a feel-good one. Another one that I didn't get paid for, but it's okay. So a guy comes in because his bearded dragon has this really black neck. And when beardies have black beards, it means they don't feel good and they're trying to die. Or it could be territorial. Or they're outside and they're nervous. But you don't know. And so when the beard is black, you just say, come on in. So this guy brings in his bearded dragon who's had a black beard for several weeks. And I look at the guy, and the guy has a black beard too. And so the bearded dragon is reacting to his owner because he thinks his owner is asserting dominance, when really his owner just had a beard that he didn't shave. So that's a funny one. Everyone was happy.
That is awesome.
I know. So one more thing. It's
Yeah.
funny. This is my poor husband who puts up with me. I had an iguana that was probably 5 feet long. It was a big dude. Come in because he had a facial tumor. And iguanas and tumors are difficult to manage because iguanas tend to be spirited. So I keep them in my bathtub while they heal, and then I can put in heat lamps. I can control their environment, and I just sort of close the little curtain. And I don't always remember to tell my loved ones that there are lizards in the bathtub. So my husband comes down in the morning early, and he is urinating in the toilet, and the iguana comes out of the tub, and he's afraid that he's going to lose his manhood because he doesn't know that iguanas are herbivores. You may not be able to tell this story either, but Raya thinks it's funny.
It is funny.
Yeah, so that's a funny story. What you have to put up with when you have a veterinarian in your house. It's usually a duck or a goose in the tub. But when it's a lizard, it changes things.
I've had my fair share of bathtub lizards too.
Yeah,
with-
they do really well in the bathtub.
when they're
But
recovering. Yeah.
It's a bit disconcerting for people that are coming by to say hi if they use your bathroom.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you have people over and you forget to tell
Yeah.
them, they're gonna get a surprise.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's so common. We don't always remember. It's like, of course, something's going to be in there. You didn't want to take a shower or anything.
Yeah, it's not your fault. It's their fault for not knowing. They should know.
Exactly. The blame must always be diverted.
That goose story really stood out to me. It's so sad, but she's right. People sometimes freeze up instead of helping.
Yeah, and I like how she turned it into a reminder. You can help, just grab a blanket, get them to safety, and don't be afraid to make a difference.
Exactly. It's such a good message for anyone who finds an injured animal. You don't have to be a vet to care. Just use good judgment, be cautious, and help when you can.
And the 2 a.m. chinchilla call, that one cracked me up. We were both sitting on the edge of our seats thinking she was about to tell us something intense. And it turns out the chinchilla just spilled their water dish.
I can only imagine her face when she realized it was just a wet chinchilla after driving out there at 2 in the morning.
Same. But I like that she still didn't charge the guy. That says so much about who she is. Compassion first, even when it turns out to be nothing serious.
For sure. And then the bearded dragon story was the perfect way to wrap it up. I never would have guessed the beard was black because his owner had one too.
That is absolutely hilarious. It's like the lizard was trying to assert dominance right back at him.
Exactly. It shows how goofy animals can be and how quickly a vet's day can go from serious to funny in seconds.
Oh, and that iguana story. Her poor husband. I don't think I'd ever recover from finding a 5-foot lizard crawling out of the bathtub.
Right? And I don't blame him for their reaction. Honestly, that would probably have scared me too, because that is so unexpected. However, I like that she just says it so casually. Like, oh yeah, sometimes it's a goose, sometimes it's a lizard. Only a vet could say that like it's normal.
Seriously, it's the perfect mix of chaos and compassion. You can tell her life isn't boring.
Totally. And that's what makes her so fun to talk to. She can have you laughing one minute and then hit you with something really heartfelt the next. It really shows the full picture of what it's like to be a vet.
Exactly. And that's where we go next, because not every story has a happy ending.
So we asked her how she handles those moments when she has to help families say goodbye and how she personally copes with that side of the job.
Boy, this is a hard part, but sometimes the most rewarding part of our jobs. I don't put down an animal until it's ready to go. I don't do, if somebody comes in, they're cleaning house, they need to go somewhere else. But if an animal is truly suffering, because I have my own gig, I can say no if the animal isn't ready, or yes if I'm doing everybody a favor. And you can look at an animal and they can tell you instantly if they're done with this planet. They communicate so well, honestly. And if you just take the time to look in their eyes, I know this sounds hokey, but when animals are suffering, it's the greatest gift you can give. And if they still want to hang out with us here and they're doing the best they can, then we let them live. And then you just make them feel as comfortable as they can. But you can tell a lot just by looking at them. I've never felt bad about a euthanasia because I have the ability to say no. And so does the animal. So that's the beautiful thing for both of us.
That was such a powerful way to look at it. The way she said she never puts an animal down until it's ready, that shows her love for animals.
Yes, you can tell how much respect she has for every animal she works with. It's not just an animal, it's a life.
Exactly. And I like her approach to it. She says that you can see it in their eyes. This shows she values animals.
Exactly. And it's comforting to know that she gives them that choice. It's not about rushing the process, it's about love and peace.
Yeah, it's understandably one of the hardest parts about being a vet, but the way she handles it through compassion and boundaries, it's beautiful the way that she views it.
It really shows how deep that bond goes. It's not just about saving lives, it's about honoring them too.
Absolutely. And after hearing everything she's experienced, it made us wonder what she would say to someone who wants to follow in her footsteps.
So finally, we asked her if someone listening dreams of becoming a vet like her, what advice would she give to help them start their journey?
Raya and I were just talking about this because I had a convoluted pathway, obviously, from the way you heard my tale. And I guess what I would say is I would never dissuade anyone from this profession. It is fantastic in every way. But you do need to know that the hours are long and sometimes the monetary rewards are fewer than if you had really gone into orthopedics, right? But oh my gosh, I have never been unhappy with this decision. So just know what you want and know you're going to be working long hours, but it's rewarding on so many levels. And the depth of the reward is immeasurable. I would never say no to anyone, but I guess what I would tell them is to really want it, to really know what you're doing before you dive in. That would probably be my advice. And if you really want it and you cannot get in the first time, it's okay to apply again.
I like how honest she was about it. She didn't sugarcoat anything, long hours, hard work, but you can hear how much she loves what she does.
Yeah, you can tell this isn't just a job for her. It's something she was meant to do, no matter how winding the road was to get there.
And I like how she said, if you don't get in the first time, it's okay to apply again. That's such good advice for vet school or really anything in life.
Exactly. It's that mix of realism and encouragement. She's saying, know what you're getting into, but also don't give up.
Totally. Because at the end of the day, if it's something you really love, it's worth the effort.
Yeah, and hearing her story just proves that every challenge she went through led her right where she was supposed to be. Massive thank you to Dr. Wolfe and Raya for joining us on this episode and for the good time and the laughs and everything they do for animals who don't always get the spotlight.
From hamsters and chickens to snakes and parrots, this episode reminded us that every creature has a story and every bond, no matter the species, matters.
And it also showed just how much heart goes into being a vet. The long hours, the funny moments, the heartbreaks, it's all part of the journey.
Absolutely. And to everyone listening, we hope this episode made you see your pets a little differently today. Maybe appreciate the small, silly, or unexpected moments even more.
And although we appreciate every like, every comment, every subscriber, and share, we're not asking for any of them. All we ask is for this: take a moment to honor the animals in your life. Maybe it's giving them an extra treat, an extra cuddle, or just taking a second to notice how much joy they bring. And never forget to thank your vet for all they do in dedicating their lives to the animals we call family.
Until next time, remember every animal has a voice, and every story has meaning, and love doesn't have limits, not even by species.